How do you think Arne Engels is getting on? Taking the transfer fee out of it, right? I just think he's lacking influence on games. I think out of the three midfielders, I think he's the weakest we've got, which is, he's up against Hatate and Callum McGregor, two fantastic players.
Yeah.
I think, personally, for me, Bernardo is probably more effective and a better player than Engels is at the moment. But reflecting on Nicholas Kuhn last season and the fact that Brendan kept playing him, Brendan kept challenging him to show his worth, and reflecting on the fact that Arne Engels is only 20 years old, he's not going to get any better if we bench him. So whilst Celtic are still winning games and whilst we're still performing well, and whilst Engels has still shown it in glimpses in certain matches, I can understand why you keep playing him, because he is a young player. He's only 20 years old.
21, I think he is.
Is he 20?
For all the difference that makes, he's still in that bracket.
He's still a very young guy.
Yeah.
I just want to see, and maybe I'm unfair, maybe this is a standard, holding him too high, maybe not, but I want to see I want to see his name on a match. I want to come out of a game going, Engels dominated that. Now, he did show up in some early games and he did well in some Champions League games before the break, but I just want him to really put his name on a match. I want
scruff of the neck stuff.
Scruff of the neck stuff. And it doesn't have to be physical, but I just want to see him a bit more confident on the ball a wee bit more. And I heard someone say, it must have been an ex-player, but in fact it might have been, I can't remember who it was, brilliant podcasting. They said that Brendan Rodgers would challenge Nicholas Kuhn at every game.
It was Joe Hart.
Was it Joe Hart? He was saying, at every half-time, Brendan was saying, Nicholas Kuhn, go out there and show us what you've got, show them what you've got. And I'd send that same message to Arne Engels, you're a good player. Forget the transfer fee for now. Just go out there and show us what you've got. Put your name on a game.
Yeah, and of course we do not want this to come across as writing off Arne Engels close to the start of his Celtic career. That's not
nothing close to it.
No, I think we just need to be patient with Engels. To be honest, I think it's not a groundbreaking view from me here, but I just think we need to kind of wait it out and let him adjust to new surroundings. I'd totally agree with the fact that he is now a diminishing influence over the last few games. I think that bears out in some numbers as well. I think if you go back to the Dundee game, he was probably one of the better players in the game. Leipzig, very, very good indeed. But for the most recent game marks the third consecutive game where he has played the fewest passes of any midfielder. Now, again, we're up against Callum McGregor and Rio Hatate, but it just means he's not having as big an influence over the game as his teammates are. I think that's okay though. I think at this stage it's all right. Celtic aren't suffering from that. We can afford to carry a player like that who is adjusting, and maybe just we need to show a little bit of patience with him. But I totally agree that he's not really having the influence over a game that you might hope for a guy of that reputation. And as much as I don't want to talk about transfer fees because it bores me senseless, it really does. I think it's completely irrelevant. The fact is, it's massive for Scotland and it's going to hang over him. I want to get away from that, but the easiest way to do that is if he was justifying it so far. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means in terms of justifying it, because it doesn't look like the guy who's going to score a load of goals like Matt O'Reilly eventually did. But we need to remember his first season. What did he score, 4 or something like that? Or his first full season? I don't think
it was less than 3 goals.
Yeah,
goals,
and even at that, it came towards the end of the season. He started scoring.
Last game of the season.
So we'd had him scouted. Again, when we throw out phrases like that, we had him scouted, right? What we mean is, if you're not familiar with it on our Patreon,
why wouldn't you be familiar with it, Stephen?
Well, there's no excuse for it now. We plug it often enough, but you should really be in there. You're missing out. But we, on our Patreon property we have, is part of that. We do some scouting, and that is with the help of professionally commissioned scout from The Athletic, Alex. You've already mentioned him, Melly. So brought him in to have a look at Engels, and he was a little bit, not so much lukewarm on him. He just voiced some misgivings about not being able to quite identify what it is he's going to bring to Celtic just yet. I think he said that he was obviously a very good player, but it might take a wee while for him to
figure out what type of midfielder he is.
Yeah, and it didn't go down very well at the time, because obviously people will listen to that podcast hoping that we're told that he's the best player in Europe, that we've paid £11 million for this absolute starlet, whereas Alex in his scouting thought, right, okay, let's see how this develops, because it's not immediately obvious what he is going to transplant from Augsburg to Celtic, a team who are up against it probably most weeks, to a team who are dominant of the ball all the time. So I think we're maybe seeing that difficult transition because, as I say, it's quite clear that he's not having the influence over the game that you might have expected. But that's a huge adjustment to go from, yes, a very good league, but the bottom end of a very good league to the top end of a weaker league.
Yeah.
So I think we just need to see how it goes with him. Urge a little bit of patience. I'm not against taking him out of the team once or twice because we need to use the squad. I don't want that to be taken as using the D word, dropping him. It's nothing to do. I'm not having a go at him. But what we need to remember is, see if you want to see Bernardo played for a couple of games, he's also a Celtic player.
Yes.
And they are.
It's a crime I can't play some of these players, Brendan Rodgers said, or I can't play all of my players, Brendan Rodgers said.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
not a crime you choose.
And when I play, I can sense it as well. Obviously, with being a football fan, with a guy who is in the team just now, and everyone's willing him to do well, there's a sensitivity around dropping him because they don't want to see that. But what I would say is that Bernardo and Engels, if you take the fees out of it entirely, the vastly different fees, they are ostensibly the same thing. The youngish Celtic midfielders who are vying for a position, one position between them, and they need game time. So I'm not really
It's
bothered.
not
who plays.
Bernardo's fault that Celtic only paid $4.5 million for him and had to pay $11 million for
Exactly.
Engels.
But that just means that they're in the same position. So I'm not adverse to seeing one of them given the odd game here and there. So I wouldn't like to take moving Bernardo into the position for a couple of games as like an outright condemnation of Engels' start.
It's not like he's finally been dropped. He's
no,
been rotten.
no, not at all. It's just I just wouldn't be against it because we don't. It might be the best thing for Engels' confidence just to keep playing him, or it might be the worst thing. But the thing with Celtic is we don't have to because we've got luxury here. We've got so many players for hardly any positions, and we kind of need to share out the responsibility a little bit. And that's not even mentioned Luke McCowan, who's kind of fallen out the team altogether in the last couple of games as well.